There are a couple different things you want to keep in mind when you are writing your own program. It is so important that you understand what works from a basic physiology perspective. How does your body respond to change?
Andrew, so we're wrapping up 2024. We're walking into 2025 and programming, getting back to the gym, my fitness routine in general, in 10 minutes or less. What are some of the things that I need to be thinking about as I start to build my fitness programming moving forward, and how do I make sure that I'm doing the most effective thing possible for myself?
Woo! Man, program design. If you are a certified coach and you've been coaching for more than a couple of years, I'm coming after you today because you're program. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of different paradigms and a lot of different ways that people can program. Um, and you add in the layer of what makes sense physiologically for your body based upon how much bandwidth you have or how much recovery potential do you have. If you're running hot all the time, and I'm just throwing these all out there as a preface before we get into like what you probably should be thinking about, you want to make sure that you're able to recover from the work that you're doing. You need to work hard to actually elicit change, and those are really the two biggest moderating variables. If you don't work hard, you're probably not going to cause a need for your body to change, right? So recovery really doesn't matter. If you work too hard and you don't have enough time to recover and your quality of output or effort goes down, you really like why? The people that are like, I'm gonna do two-a-days, like, I mean, if you're literally just a pro athlete, you have a professional chef literally doing everything for your nutrition, you're sleeping like a baby for 9 hours a day, and you don't really have much life stress, sure, like I love that. And that's not the reality of most people that are living what we call a high intensity lifestyle. And if someone's going hot all the time, they're getting less than 7 hours of sleep, you're probably better served training less frequently, but at a higher quality to get better results. So less is more if you're pretty strained in other areas of life. Now, all that to say, there are a couple different things you want to keep in mind when you are writing your own program. Number one, and actually let me back up. There are four universal questions that you can ask yourself in anything you're trying to achieve, and it will be beneficial. Number one, what do you want? Right? What is the thing you're trying to achieve? Then the second question is, what are you doing currently, and what should you be doing? Number three is, what are you getting from what you're currently doing? And number four is, what should you change to help you get the thing that you want? So if you're not working out whatsoever, but you want to be on the cover of Swimsuit Illustrated, clearly that doesn't match what you want. So now you're going to have to change something, which is probably add some activity. What should you add? You don't know. So you start just doing some cardio stuff. You see some changes, but you don't see the muscular definition start to emerge. So then what do? Well, you start lifting weights. Okay, well, let's say that you don't know what you're doing and you pick a couple different machines, and now your legs are starting to get a little more toned, but your upper body and your midsection aren't seeing any of that. So now what do you change? Now maybe you add some upper body and some midsection, right? So that's kind of how we want to layer this for the long-term success and sustainability. But it starts with doing an assessment to understand where you are right now in relation to your goal. If you want to lose 100 pounds and you weigh 100 pounds, that's probably not the best goal, right? You're going to shrink yourself back to a fetus. But if you weigh 300 pounds and you want to lose 100 pounds, that's now a better litmus of it makes more sense. It's more relevant. So there's a lot of different things you can assess, and generally most programs should include strength training, lifting weights, resistance exercise, right? If you want to now, let's say someone has osteoporosis or osteopenia and they want to get their bones thicker, that's going to require a different kind of exercise. And in fact, when you're doing calf raises, that's probably not going to be the thing that helps you thicken the bones in the most effective way. So you want to change that, right? What are you doing? What are you getting? And what do you want? What are you changing? Strength training, resistance exercise, number one component. Number two, cardiovascular training, cardiovascular exercise. A lot of people are demonizing cardio right now. And I don't know where that's coming from, because when you consider blood vessel health, you consider resting heart rate, you
Because
consider
it's
things.
controversial. Because it's getting people views. That's why.
I hate
That's
social
why.
media. You gave me a time limit. I'm trying to. Too many soapboxes. Yes. And here's the thing, and this is where you want to be careful as you're getting your information from social media. It is so important that you understand what works from a basic physiology perspective. How does your body respond to change? Some people do respond to higher volume workouts. Some people don't. And this is kind of one of the things where we saw high volume monkey, low volume monkey from a Russian research perspective. And they like basically took these two groups of monkeys and they beat the crap out of one of them and they did less work on the other one. And they found that, ta-da, one group performed better than the other. And that's, kind of one of the foundational pieces decades ago. That people kind of pull from when they're like, well, I'm a high volume responder, I'm a low volume responder. Interestingly enough, the more advanced you get, the more you have to pay attention to stuff like that. But if you're a beginner, you probably should lift twice a week to keep what you got, 3 times a week to make a little bit of progress, 4 times a week to probably maximize what you're doing. 5 times a week is probably the maximum threshold for most people based upon what you need to do to recover. If you're going out having some drinks on Friday, you're probably in that max 5 days group, right? Assess the strength, assess the cardiovascular capacity. Your VO2 max is one of the biggest predictors for how you will age, right? We talk about your ability to withstand oxidative stress, all that. There are things that you can do from a strength training perspective. You can look at 1 rep maxes, and this is traditionally like you look at a large muscle group type of composition, like a back squat. You can even, if someone's not quite the most coordinated, you can change that to a leg press. That's not the best thing, but it is better than not assessing that whatsoever. And let's say that the most you can do is 100 pounds for 2 reps, right? So now you have a 2 rep max, and now you can go off of an intensity of like, we know that you get stronger if you lift at least 85% of your maximal exertion. So that means you have to lift at least 85 pounds to have a strength response. If you don't, you're not going to get stronger. You might get more endurance. You might get a bigger muscle. You might get a little more body fat burning in that area, which is kind of a weird thing right now that we're finding. Actually, spot reduction can happen, contrary to popular belief. And there was some research that was published like 8 months ago that they found that, yeah, you can spot reduce. Now, how significant is it? Hard to say. But keep your eye out for that. So that's an example of a strength assessment. A cardiovascular assessment might look like if you have a 5K coming up that you're trying to get ready for, and you're trying to do it in 30 minutes, maybe you do 30 minutes of a run and see how far you can get, right? And now the idea is, again, maybe 85% of that, pace it out, maybe go a little bit faster than what your 30-minute pace was for shorter periods. And that's how you would start to create your program, is that you find the ceiling, you train below the ceiling for long enough, and eventually that's how your program starts to help you improve your physical status. And sometimes the test actually can be the training. You could go in there, and this is where a lot of new people especially will greatly benefit from this, is that you should probably test like once a week, because a lot of those changes initially are going to be your brain getting more coordinated, learning how to turn the right muscles on at the right time. It's not actually a structural change. And in fact, we have a program design workshop that we're hosting in Dallas, MLK Day weekend, and also a coaching psychology workshop. But if you don't know how to put this stuff together, it's really important for you to create long-term value for your clients. Otherwise, how are you supposed to know how to change the program? Why are people going to then pay you if you're just going to ask them, hey, what do you want to do today? Because there's no long-term vision for them to now buy into. And that's where the reason why I built such a successful training business and why I help dozens of other personal trainers in lifetime do that is because we taught them long-term program design, or something we call periodization. So if you're stuck with that, hit us up on our Instagram. We'll make sure you get the details. But you got to assess. If you're not assessing, you're guessing. And if you're guessing, you're not really a professional. Shots fired. Come at me, bro. At Andrew Garrettson. I'll fight you. No, I'm kidding. But you have to assess so that way you're not guessing, because only amateurs guess. So as you're doing that, look at the thing that's furthest away from what it should be, and then work on improving that thing. This is what we call the biggest limiting factor, right? If you get so tired from one strength training session that you can only train twice a week, that's only 104 workouts a year. That's actually an indication that you have poor cardiovascular health, because you can't recover, which is an aerobic system thing. So now if you add a third day in there and you just add some aerobic training, and now someone gets more cardiovascularly fit, Generally speaking, they're going to have more endurance. They're going to be able to recover faster. And now maybe you can add in a third day of strength training in there, taking them from 104 workouts a year to 156 workouts a year. That's a substantial change. Think about how much faster someone's body would change the more volume of work they can do to a certain point, right? But there's not enough, there's too much. This is where the assessment is going to help you find what we call the Goldilocks zone. Or what's the minimum effective dose, or how little work do you need to do to get the thing that you want? Same way you wouldn't spend $300 on a cell phone bill when you only owe $100 a month. So, assessment, program design, and the last thing is actually collaborating with the client and monitoring them. If their squat is going down, something's wrong. You probably should change something, right? They're not getting the thing that they're paying for. They're not seeing meaningful progress. And the number one reason why clients quit is because they get frustrated. And the biggest contribution to frustration is unmet expectations, mismatched expectations, meaning they think they're going to get this, you're thinking you're going to give them this, and that gap is where that frustration starts to breed. And sometimes it happens pretty quickly, and sometimes it does take a little bit longer, but you got to be able to show proof of concept for people making substantial investments. And if people are spending hundreds of dollars a month and you're not able to say, hey, here's the schematic for us metaphorically, like an example, if you hired an architect to build a house and they just start building stuff and it's nothing to where you approved it and you didn't look at it and like you have no idea what they're building, and all of a sudden you get like, one style ranch house when in reality you wanted a castle replica of something in Germany, someone's going to be pretty pissed off. So, by and large, you want to make sure that you are meeting their expectations, you're communicating along the way, and you're trying to make the journey and the work, which is the most essential thing. You have to do the work if you want the change, but you have to do the right kind of work. If someone wants a brick house, but you're using wood plaster siding, they're going to get mad, right? So this is where understanding their preferences and what they want from the experience and how they want to do the work can be just as important as understanding physiologically their strength might be really low, their cardiovascular might be really high, which we do tend to see a lot more of when people are looking for personal training. So then we probably shouldn't program more cardio than we should strength training. We probably want to flip that a little bit, because the biggest limiting factor that's stopping overall growth is going to be the strength that they don't have. Life is a little bit easier when you're stronger, but it gets pretty tiring if you're too strong but you have no endurance. So this is where we want to look at those attributes. But that's pretty much Program Design 101 in 12 minutes or less, which I think I did.
There we go. I love it. If
Was
you
that
want
short?
more of this from Andrew, as he mentioned, next month we will be hosting a live in-person in Dallas program design and coaching psychology workshop. So make sure you reach out looking for some information on that. Instagram is going to be best at official Beyond the Pump, or either of us directly. Other than that, subscribe to us. Let us know what else you want to hear. Make some comments below. If this was helpful, throw it a like, and we'll be sure to throw more up. Till next time.